Hello, it's the second video I'm recording today. I've really just recorded the Lego one, which is why I'm wearing the same t-shirt, because I haven't posted videos in a while, so I thought I'd record lots back to back. This is going to be the 5 bestest films of some reasons that I've just made up. I passed it right back the 5 films that I watched the most, which are just films that I could just put on repeat and watch over and over and over again. These are 5 films that I just feel are kind of amazing in various different ways, and they're the films I would point to if I was saying, someone asked me what film should they see. Some films that I feel I should show to a new generation of filmmakers. Someone thinks, right, you have to see this and this and this and this and this. So, in particular order, we'll go with number 5 of the films. These are films that I'm just going to say that I'm just going to make people watch. I think films that I would make people watch who are just sort of getting into films. Number 5, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? This film's obviously quite well known, but it was never huge because it's not necessarily a brilliant film. But every time I watch it, I'm watching it just thinking, I just can't get over it. It's so amazing to look at, and the meshing of the genres and everything. It just is ludicrously good. And the animation and everything, the cross animation is still quite amazing to look at, and it's not perfect, not by a long shot. It's a bit rough around the edges, but that style, I still watch it and I think, well, how did they? I try and fathom it out in my head how they did each individual piece, because it's so incredibly impressive. And it's not something that you get. I think it's something that's lost a lot these days. Things aren't necessarily impressive these days. Claymation and things like that are still impressive, but at the end of the day, CGI isn't impressive. It's one of those great ironies, I think, of the better looking your animation or your design is in a film, the less impressive it is. Even though it probably takes much more work and much more, it's much more complex to create, say, Avatar. It just doesn't look as impressive, because all you can really say about it is all it feels like when you watch it. You think, oh, well done. I watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something like that, and I think, how did they do that? How did they calculate the dynamics and everything like that? And I watch, say, Avatar, and just think, congratulations, you bought a computer. And that's often all you can say for modern CGI. It's like watching the Star Wars, the original. Why they don't, the original Star Wars works better. The original Star Wars with all the models and the dodgy everything else, all its little dodgy elements. You think, oh wow, they've really put a lot of effort and put a lot of work into it, and it looks like a lot of thought and creativity is going into it. Whereas we watch the remasterings with all the CGI, you just look at it and you think, congratulations, you bought a computer. It's just not as impressive. And I'm sorry to CGI artists. And I've worked with, I have a friend who's a CGI artist, and he does a lot of work with us, and he's very good. But it's just, and I'm watching him work is very impressive. Watching him do his thing. But to watch the movie, it's that great irony of the more polished it is, the less impressive it appears. Whereas when things are a bit dodgy, you think, oh, I'm actually quite impressed by how they've managed to make it work under what was obviously slightly more limited circumstances. Number 4, The Thing. There's a bit of a toss-up. This is going to be a horror film. I knew it was going to be maybe a bit of a toss-up between The Thing and Alien, but personally, I think The Thing is a better film. As I don't think horror films have really been made, or a horror film has been made that's even half as good as it. These days, horror films are all essentially the same thing, cycled over and over again, this sort of slasher film idea. But The Thing is this sort of subtle, not psychological, but paranoid little group of men in the Antarctic. It's got an interesting setting, interesting creature, some great physical effects. The paranoia of these guys is part and parcel of the film. I mean, they're killing each other without the creatures even intervention. They're just, the creatures driven them just to this point where they're like, they don't trust each other, and it's all shit's hitting the fan without the monster even having to do anything. It's just a really, really clever, interesting horror film, and I just don't think those are made anymore. I can't think of anything modern that would particularly compare. And no, the Thing prequel, what was the point of that? it wasn't actually a bad film. The Thing prequel, it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty pointless. It was kind of like, well, I don't know why I'm watching this. I did enjoy it from a point where because I know The Thing so well. When I was watching it, I was thinking, this guy must be that. This must happen next, and this is noticing the things that I knew had to happen because I'd seen them happen in The Thing, or I knew that they happened from stuff they'd seen happened in The Thing. It was kind of interesting that way. But yeah, it was just kind of pointless, really. Number 3, Toy Story. And I'm putting the Toy Story trilogy as one whole entity here, partly because I couldn't decide whether to put Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 3 on this list. I think Toy Story 3 is, in many ways, a better film, but I just can't ignore Toy Story 1. It's just so amazing, and it's set that bar so high. I mean, Pixar have always been good, and Pixar tend to always make good films. Even Brave is a good film. It's a bit of a boring film, but it's a good film. And I don't think Pixar have ever quite been as good as Toy Story again. I think Toy Story they still peak them. I'm not saying anything against Pixar at all. I still think that Toy Story is as good as they've ever been though. And you just have people have to see that movie. It's just ingenious in probably everywhere. I don't think there's much more I can say about it. It's really quite amazing. The trilogy. I don't want them to make more. I didn't particularly want them to make a third one, to be honest, because the second one was a bit. I'm not too sure about this. But then the third one was amazing. It's one of those things that if they can make another amazing film, then great. But still, every time someone says we're going to make another such and such film, you're just going to think, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe that would be a terrible idea. But you never know. I don't know where a Toy Story 3. Toy Story 4 floated about a bit, didn't it, after Toy Story 3? But I don't know where it's at now. And I can't be able to look it up because I'm basically a very lazy person. Number 2 is Marion Max. This is a sort of little indie-ish film that you might not have heard of, but it's insanely good. I'm gonna have to confess something here. It's the last time that I genuinely cried in a movie. I don't think I've ever cried in a movie, but I did in Marion Max because it's just a really, really kind of fucked up, intense story, and it's a bit much. It's just really dark, really, really, really dark, and really intense. And yeah, there's not much you can say about it. It's about a little girl in Australia who gets bullied a lot and has not a great home life, and she ends up writing completely at random to this guy in America, in New York, I think, she just picks him randomly out of a phone book, but he has Asperger's syndrome, quite severely, so he kind of can't relate to the world, and he's quite prone to anxiety attacks. And she just randomly writes to him, and he kind of freaks out a bit about it at first, and then he writes back, and they sort of form this unlikely friendship. And it's really quite intense, and it's quite a lot to take in. Don't watch it without settle down and watch it, because it's quite intense. But yeah, no, I thoroughly recommend it. It was really, really brilliant film, brilliantly hilarious, and it's Philip Seymour Hoffman as the guy of New York Style. Good, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman is who's fantastic. It's always fantastic, and is missed. Number 1 is Fight Club. I'm sorry, I said in my last top 5 that Fight Club always hits the number 1 of everything, but Fight Club is my number 1 in pretty much all lists. Fight Club is my definition of a perfect movie. It's enjoyable on a visceral sort of basic level of it's quite a good thriller, and it's got enough sort of intense action, and then it's clever, and it's deep, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of everything. So it's kind of enjoyable on an emotional level, and an intellectual level, and a kind of mindless level. It's got all the levels. What more do you want from a fucking movie? I do find that the mindset of Fight Club is something that becomes more and more relatable the older I get, as I become, as I approach middle age. I start to think, what's the point of my existence? It gets some bleak imagery for you there. and then the messages, the intellectual side of Fight Club suddenly starts to become more and more interesting. And then, so I don't know what necessarily attracted me the first place, if it was just because it was a clever little thriller, or if just because I don't know what it was that attracted me. But now it's the intellectual side of it that gets me more and more time. And it's got one of the great all-time twists. I'm going to do a video on twists at some point, and Fight Club is going to feature heavily prominent in that. Fight Club is likely to feature. Whenever I talk about movies in general, Fight Club is probably going to feature fairly heavily. So Fight Club is my #1 movie that I just want to show other people. That's that list. This might have gone on a bit long already. I noticed that I have recorded 12 minutes, but I'm sure that'll be cut down and stuff. But yeah, hopefully that was vaguely interesting. Follow on from my other top 5. I might do some more top 5s if I can think of anything. That was my top 5 films that I want to show people or make people watch. And that was all of that. So yeah, do like if you liked that, and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos, my other top 5. Check out Flitter Film stuff. Find me on Twitter and all the other bollocks that I say at the end of every video. Yeah, thank you for watching. The end.